Hey everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Conversations at the Ranch. My name is Liam, and I'm the podcast producer here at Conversations at the Ranch, Dudley's monthly message, and a lot of the other videos you see here on this YouTube channel. Today, Dudley is going to sit down with Samuel Downe and Corinne Downe, and this is the first time here on the podcast we've had a husband and wife couple sit in with Dudley to talk about how do you be the parent your kids need you to be, and how does our relationship with Christ inform that? And I'm not a parent myself, so I'll leave all of the deep dive for that for Sam, Dudley, and Corinne to take care of. But if you guys do enjoy what you listen to here, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the Charisma Ventures YouTube channel, and share this video with somebody who you think would enjoy it as well. If you know another parent out there who you think these questions and these answers could be helpful for, share it with them. But without further ado, I'm going to quit yapping. Let's get back to the episode.
I don't think we've ever talked about parenting with a parental unit, husband and wife. Yeah. So we're going to try that today. I brought my wife, Corinne, who's the mother of my children. And I'm the father of her children. So we're going to try to dive into this.
And it's called a parental unit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think Corinne's come up with some questions. We've got a few written down here, but we'll just dive in. Does anything come to mind off the cuff?
Well, I guess if you can go back in time to when your kids were, I would say maybe even under 7 and under. And
can you remember back that far?
Barely. I can barely remember my grandkids.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I guess also think about them, and Sam travels a little bit, and sometimes he's away for events for this job. I also have other friends who have a spouse that travels a longer amount of time than Sam does. And so this kind of ties in with probably marriage as well, is adjusting back when you are back together.
Yeah.
And with parenting, so the crossover there of also adjusting, of being a team again, and just I'm sure it's an adjustment for the person coming back in to the mix. It's an adjustment for the parent that has been, doing it fully without their teammate. Just I don't know, like what is the best way of like easing back in, because I think there's probably some unsaid expectations or desires, and sometimes even for us, we don't want to come across to the other like we're being selfish, because we both want maybe some alone time, whether with one another or by ourselves, but then we have the kids, so I think what is that balance, how does that go, adjusting back? I mean, I have friends who their spouse is gone for maybe a week at a time, and then it's like also keeping up with the other relationships that are from home, family, friends. And so if they're only home for a short time, then it's like, okay, well, I want to get out of the house. Are you going to take over? Or and navigating, adjusting back together.
Yeah. Well, as you know, there's no blueprint on how to raise kids.
Yeah.
One of the great things I learned when we first started having children was, in preparation for having kids, I'd read a bunch of books on how to raise kids. So I thought when they got here, hey, this is going to be simple. I just put them in the formula and work it out, and they'll pop out the other end being great kids. And I realized the guy who wrote that book didn't have my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a dynamic. It's not a formula. It's not a blueprint. And just like everything else in marriage, honest communication is the only way to get through, because there'll be some times when he's been gone a week and he comes home and you're feeling chipper and happy and whatever, and Your next few days will be based on that. And there'll be times when he comes home and you're totally depleted, and you can't do the same thing both times. So you're gonna have to say, my tank's kind of empty. In a way, you can help here, and how can I help without depleting your tank more? And so one of the kind of little rules that Betsy and I, Betsy was my wife for 51 years. One of the rules we did after a while, after making a lot of mistakes with it, was when she picked me up at the airport, our rule was we don't talk about problems yet. I don't hop in the car and she goes, yeah, let me tell you what's been going on in my life for the last, and what about this and what about that? And you got to say, we agreed, no, let's just talk. Let's just talk about us and if I missed you or not, or if you miss me, or, what would you like to do in the next, in other words, we intentionally kept it away from the draining things. Now, you got to deal with those eventually, but it's a whole lot better if you get the established.
You connected.
You're connected again, yeah. You're talking and you're feeling each other. And hi, I'm Dudley Hall with Kerygma Ventures. I would love to send you a weekly word from me. It lands in your box on Friday morning. What I try to do is cover what's happening in the world, regular events, but cover it from a biblical standpoint, a biblical worldview. And I would love to send it to you. So if you're interested, please sign up. If you zoom out, real big picture with parenting, actually we're just basically trying to parent the kids God's given to us the way God parents his kids. So the real challenge is finding out, how does God challenge his kids? So if I am responding as one of his kids and I'm watching how he treats me, then I learn ways of treating my children. Mm-hmm. And the first thing that we have to understand, hard to believe, is that the first thing is that God enjoys his kids. He didn't create us just to fix us. He didn't create us just to make us a servant. He didn't create us because he needed a workforce. He created us because he wanted us to enjoy him the way he enjoys himself, which means he wants to enjoy us. So one of the things that I try to keep in forefront, no matter how big the problem might be in parenting or whatever, is if I'm not enjoying these kids right now, I'm probably not looking at it exactly right. Even the problems, even when one of them gets expelled from school and I got to go deal with the principal, am I enjoying these kids? Well, enjoying in the sense that, this is an important development moment in their lives and in our lives and whatever, so I can enjoy it from that perspective. So I think we have to say, okay, the first thing I need to give my kids is I need to give them a happy parent. A healthy parent, so we say it that way, healthy rather than happy. A healthy parent. I need to give, because as you know, if you're unhealthy, you're going to project that unhealth on them. Mm-hmm. If you're feeling rejected, you're going to throw rejection over on them. And so my first job toward my kids is not to just put food on the table and clothes on their back, but it's to give them a healthy parent. And a healthy parent doesn't mean a perfect parent; it just means one that walks in the light. So,
you have a follow-up question?
Not right now.
You mentioned earlier it's not a formula, for raising a kid because every kid's different. Mm-hmm. What produces that temptation in? Let's just speak to our community is largely, and yours is as well, a community of Christians that generally were steeped in. Take James Dobson parenting tips, for example. That's what we were raised with and raised under. And even today, though he's not as prominent of a voice for our generation, there's still, I think, a lot of commonly held beliefs that a formula is the way to go. There are these certain formulas and equations that are going to produce this outcome.
Yeah.
And like you mentioned earlier, the guy that wrote that book didn't have my kids. So what produces the temptation to believe that it is a formula that'll get it done?
Well, that's just part of being fallen human, in that we believe that we have this false sense that if you'll just tell me what to do, I'll do it. Mm-hmm. And then if I do it...
Why are you patting my leg?
Let's forget this parenting. Let's talk about marital.
Yeah, right. Seriously, I'm sure we'll get to that.
Yeah, there's just something in us that we want instructions, and we believe that if you'll give me instructions, I'll do it. And we also believe if I'll do the instructions, I'll get rewarded. And then we get mad with God when it doesn't happen. And so we take some guy's formula and we buy into the fact that if you'll do the formula, it'll produce the right deal. So we do the formula, it doesn't produce the right deal. Now we're mad with God because he didn't do it.
He didn't uphold his end of the deal.
He didn't uphold his end deal. You know, I followed your deal and it didn't work. Well, you think about the whole Bible story, that's why God gave the law. Why did God give the law? Because humans want a law. Mm-hmm. We want something to do. Tell me what to do. Just tell me what to do. And so God said, okay, I'll tell you what to do. I'll tell you what to do. If you'll do it, the whole world will work right. I'll tell you what to do, and if you do it, you'll always be the head, not the tail. I'll tell you what to do. If you do it, your basket will never be empty. So we go, yeah, give me that. So God gives you the law, and then you find out you don't have the capacity to do it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's that produces your openness to the gospel, that God has come and done for you what you couldn't do. Okay, so let's talk about a parenting thing from that. If that's the way God does his kids, then when I've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-year-old kids, I have to understand that part of my parenting deal is to prepare them for the gospel.
I agree.
So how did God prepare me for the gospel? He exposed to me that with all my good intentions and with all my rules, I couldn't keep them. So wouldn't it be great if a kid had a loving parent who was full of grace along with them, but was saying, no, look, there are boundaries and there are rules, and there are things that work and don't work, and there are choices that you make that have consequences. And but even when you've done everything you think you're supposed to do, you're not going to be able to get it done, and that's not time for you to start being down on yourself. That's for you a time for you to look to the gospel, look to Jesus. So I think sometimes I've seen parents, and I did it myself, wanting to be so grace-oriented toward my kids that I was like, well, God's full of grace, so he's not into a bunch of rules. No, God's full of grace, and he had a lot of rules. But the rules were not to make me better so that I didn't need him. The rules were to expose my inabilities so I would need him. So that's our job, I think as parents, is to be, all kind of phrases of like soft parenting, hard parenting, gentle parenting, traditional parenting. Mm-hmm. I don't know what half of those mean. I've read about them, and I've looked at the cute memes about them, but I just like the phrase gospel parenting. Mm-hmm. Why? Because I'm a gospel person. I was saved by the gospel. I live by the gospel. The gospel's the good news, and there's good news in the fact that God's given us responsibility to steward these kids for a while. Mm-hmm. And my big job is to prepare them for the gospel. The old proverb, bring up a child in the way he should go, and when he's old, he will not depart from it. Mm-hmm. A misunderstanding of that has caused a lot of angst among parents. It's like, okay, I brought him up the way he should go, and now he has departed from it. I took him to church. I read the Bible. I made him memorize these scriptures.
Yeah.
That's
the way he should go.
That's the way he should go.
Accepted.
But as you probably know, that that could be translated like this: bring up a child in the way he's bent, and when he's old, he won't depart from it. In other words, it's our responsibility to kind of know something of the purpose of God in this kid's life. I'm going to bring up a 6-year-old. Well, I'm going to bring up a 5-year-old different than I'm going to bring up a 13-year-old. At 5 years old, a kid doesn't yet know how to control his emotions. He would be more apt to be ruled by his emotions. Okay, so if I'm going to come alongside him and treat him like a 13-year-old and go, straighten up, you have no business feeling like that. No, I need to be on his level. Bring him up where he is. But if he's 13 years old and he still doesn't know there's some boundaries in life and he needs some responsibilities and he's getting a clue about what his garden is and what he's supposed to do, then I'm treating him like he's a 4-year-old. So I think we have to be wise enough to know that in human development, we come along beside them not to be their best friends, but to be friendly parents.
I agree. Yeah.
You do agree with that?
Yeah, being friendly.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the idea is that you got to be either harsh and mean and and wrath and do what I say because I said do it, or you've got to go whatever you want, honey. You do. Well, it's neither one of those.
Yeah.
Scary either way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I have seen some of these things that could be made a meme, in the grocery stores and whatever, of a well-meaning mom trying to negotiate with a 3-year-old. Yeah, be friendly, be kind, be mom, be a safe place, but you can't negotiate with a 3-year-old on the level you can with a 40-year-old. So I just want to be their friend. Well, why don't you just be a friendly parent?
Yeah. I like that. What are you thinking?
I'm just listening.
So what do you think? You're the mom. We're dads. We dads like to come at things from, God put us on this earth to fix problems. You don't have quite as much that deal. I mean, you do know problems need to be fixed, but you have more of a capacity, more of a perspective of, God put me on this earth to be with you while you walk through your problems.
Yeah, I do enjoy sitting with people. I mean, I still have my limitations like any other human when I feel overstimulated, specifically by noise. But I listened to a comedian recently about the generation prior. They didn't have different types of parenting. It was just survival parenting.
Yeah.
And then now there's there's a menu of parenting, which probably swings it to the opposite direction. But really, I think it's about awareness, and you bring up the light. I think you have to first know whether you're in the light or not, whether you need the light, whether you have to be aware enough of what is going on in you. And I think maybe our generation is headed in that direction, maybe a little lost about, where we are, but I think it's headed in that direction of some awareness. When prior, I have some empathy for that survival. I didn't live in that, but I can imagine, what there are some basic needs that human needs that had to be met, and that was higher priority.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it wasn't modeled to them on, being emotionally regulated for their children. But now parents are aware, hey, that's actually a very necessary component for maturity. And you won't have little boys and little girls stuck in adult bodies that don't know how to navigate some hard times.
How do you know if you're a healthy parent?
Well, if you got a spouse, they can give you a clue. A healthy parent, you can know some self-examination. A healthy parent is a parent who is confident in God, but not real confident in themselves apart from God. So they can say they're wrong. You know, there's nothing wrong with saying to a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, I was wrong when I said that.
Yeah.
But my heart is right, and I'm here to help you, and I love you, and I'm proud of you, and so forth. So an honest parent is a healthy parent.
So you said a healthy parent is one that knows that, well, they need a spouse, that the spouse helps them. They also, though if there are single parents out there, they can be healthy too.
Yes,
worth noting. There are a lot of really healthy, amazing single parents out there.
So it helps to have community.
It does help to have community and people around you.
Yeah.
Have that sounding
But you
board.
said, you said that, a healthy parent operates with this awareness that they need God.
Yeah.
It's like silly as it is to admit or say, we were talking about the list thing earlier, like just give me a list and I'll get it done. Like that is so my, like I just feel like the gravitational pull in my mind on a daily basis is like, give me that list and I'll get it done. And I bet I can go above and beyond that list too. I don't know if you remember at Leadership Expedition, that's for those who don't know, our young men's discipleship training program every summer. Back in 2017, I think it was, we had a guy from Georgia. On the first night, we go around the circle and say, why are you here, to these young men? Why did you come to Leadership Expedition? And the staff provides a similar answer. And we asked this one guy, and protect his anonymity, I'll use an alias, but he said, I'm Gary, I'm from Georgia, I'm here to get right with God, and by God, I'm going to do it. And we laughed, and we laugh now, but I just think that so encapsulates the mentality of, I'll speak to me, that's my ethos when I think of parenting and when I think of marriage. On average, that's my approach is, well, by God, I'm going to do it. Corinne studies and researches a lot of parenting stuff and a lot of marriage stuff. She's very learned in that area and yet believes she's got a million miles to go in terms of what she wants to learn. But I hear these tips and things from her that I'm like, man, that's good. That's right. That's gospel parenting. And by God, I'm going to do it. And that's never the point or the message that like I would white knuckle my way to being a good parent or a good spouse, but rather the message is you are yielded and surrendered and parenting freely and healthily, born out of your identity and dependence on God. And I feel like, personally, I don't know how to get there. Like, I don't know what it looks like to, it's like, give me the list to get there, like, give me the formula to get that nailed.
Well, the formula for that is Proverbs 3. Proverbs, a lot of Proverbs is just parents giving advice.
Yeah.
It's a father speaking to his son primarily, but daughters are included in the whole concept. But it's like, okay, here's some advice. If you listen to my advice, son, it'll protect you from the strange woman and the wrong friend. Now, I think that's really interesting. How many times do we ever think as parents of my job is to develop them in such a way that they will not be vulnerable to the strange woman or the bad friend.
Folly.
Yeah.